What up everyone, it's your man XMan87 here, bringing you another Mafex video, and what I have for you today is the Medicom Toys Mafex X-Men Series Storm action figure review. Before we get into everything, if you could please leave a thumbs up, like rating on the video, it'll help show your support for my channel and I greatly appreciate it. Now with that said, let's go! Mafex absolutely nailed this head sculpt for a 90s Storm. It looks absolutely beautiful. Look at that hair sculpt, you know, she always has this nice flowing hair. And it's got to look a certain way, and I feel like they just nailed it here. You even get this nice bluish kind of hue to it too. I like this curl at the top too. She has no eyeshadow makeup, which is 90s accurate, you know, she didn't have that kind of makeup. I love the gold metallic earrings. That is very nicely painted. You have those nice thin white pupils that Jim Lee drew so nicely. So I feel like they captured Jim Lee's depiction here spot on. You know, again, nice facial structures. The nose looked good. The mouth looks good. You know, nice dark red lipstick. I feel like the collar piece should have been painted gold and not white, even though in the books it was white before, so they couldn't go wrong either way. But to me, gold would have made it pop a little bit more. But let's just look at this hair. Just looking it off to the side right there and then onto the back. It just looks very, very good. Then comparing the head sculpt with the Marvel Legends one, as far as skin tone, can't go wrong just because Storm has had darker and lighter skin tones over the years, but if we're looking at 90s accuracy wise, then Mafex is the winner. But overall head sculpt, Mafex is definitely the winner. Just the right shape of the eyes and the eyebrows. Both have the metallic lightning bolt earrings and same color lipstick. This just looks way more Jim Lee than anything. Also the hair, Marvel Legends went very heavy with the wash on the hair, but then again, it's Marvel Legends, so they need all the paint they can get to help them out. So they kind of needed this, but I just think it went a little too heavy with that gray wash, where this bluish kind of hue, it just stands out better. Where this is just too hard on the eyes, this is easy on the eyes. Marvel Legends did paint the collar piece at least. Just think it looks better that way. As far as the body work, I think it looks great. Then again, you know, what I've been saying with the Mafex female figures, they just need to work on the legs because it looks just a little too narrow. I feel the hips are fine. The hips, there's curvature on the hips, but then when it gets to the legs, it's kind of narrow. And, you know, sometimes they don't look like they have any kind of shape to them. And Jim Lee always drew his females with nice curvature on the legs. And on the side, it doesn't look too bad. You know what I mean? It's the front, for some reason, it's just too narrow looking. It's not completely bad, but you could just tell it needs a little more help on the curves. But the upper body looks great. I like the shoulder pads with the X-Men logo painted in red and black right there. You get nice gold paint on them too. You get gold paint throughout, and I like that because the Marvel Legends one had yellow, so I'm okay with this one being different. Plus, gold is royalty, and since she's a queen, it just fits. These shoulder pads are movable too, so you'll get your range of articulation when you gotta move the arms. And the engineering is almost similar to the Marvel Legends, where the cape is kind of plugged in onto the back right there. So as you can see, the Marvel Legends one, a little bit different. Because the Marvel Legends one, well, you got this plastic piece that's connected to the front because the peg on the Marvel Legends is on the front of the shoulder pads, whereas the Mafex one is on the back right there. And I prefer it to be on the back because one of the problems with the Marvel Legends with the peg being on the front is that when you move her arm straight forward, it would pop. You know, you gotta angle it out. Mafex one, you can move it straight forward and look at that, still stays in place or just goes with the flow of the arm. Speaking of the arms, I like how the wrinkles on the baggy sleeves look. It's nicely sculpted, and then the forearms are smooth. And one thing I love about this figure is the cape. It's so nice and soft. It's a satin material, so man, it's just really nice and soft. I like feeling on it. And you get this nice gold trim. The thing is, there's no bendy wire, and it looks like it would have a bendy wire underneath this gold trimming, which I feel like they could have done it. But after playing with the figure, you can still get those nice poses, and it still looks dynamic. So, yeah, it's such a nice, smooth material. I would love this as a blanket. I would sleep in it. Okay, I see. I just can't stop feeling on her. And she's got the wrist cuffs right there painted in a nice metallic gold. These relaxed hands are her default hands out of the packaging. And the one thing I will say, this is a pain in the ass when you're trying to articulate her hand. Because, you know, Mafex has that multi-directional ball jointed wrist. But sometimes I find myself posing her and the wrist would like pop out. Not right now, because I have this like secure, but just to show you. So the cape has this hole that you would plug through the wrist, and then you got the wrist cuff right here, and you would like plug that in there. Sometimes it gets loose, so when you try to move it, it just forcefully pushes. Forcefully? I don't know if that's a word. I'm just using it as an apply. But it would just force the hand out of place and it would fall out. Right now it isn't, just because what I did was put the cape through the wrist peg, and then what I do with the wrist cuff is just put some force behind it all the way up, and then I kind of like twist it to make sure it's steady and secure, and then I would plug the hand back in and I would get some movement. It is kind of hindered though, I will say. The belt is nicely painted in gold. It is a separate piece. Then I don't know if you could tell, you get some seam work right here on the crotch area, so that's pretty cool. Although in the 90s, the seam continues all the way down to the thigh right here, and it stops right here where her thigh-high boots are. And I like the cut they gave right there. You can see another seam. Something the Marvel Legends didn't do is give her the seams, although, you know, sometimes she was seen with the seams, sometimes without them. So I just like that added touch. Also, I like the thigh highs in a nice pearly white paint. The Marvel Legends had pearly legs, but it wasn't at the thigh. It was like the entire leg was pearly white. So I like this nice added touch. Gives it some, you know, pop to it. And there's your Storm cake right there. And yeah, the rest of the legs are in a pearly white. And that's the rest of the figure. Now for accessories, she comes with 2 alternate heads, and we're looking at one of them. So hairstyle is the same as before. This one just has her mouth slightly opened. Then the second alternate head has a much angrier expression, and this is probably my favorite head sculpt out of the 3. I love this one. My only problem is that, just like the other head sculpts, it's the same hair. They did not switch it up whatsoever. So with this angrier expression, I would have loved to seen her hair just flared out much more than this, you know what I mean? Then she comes with a bunch of alternate hands, so she comes with a pair of closed fists, and she also comes with a ton of open hands, so this is one of them. Then here's another set of open hands, looks like an angry hand kind of gesture. And another one, so let me just spin this around so you can see the shape of them. Then there are these hands right here that has the peg inside the palms. So with these, you'll also get these lightning effect accessories to complement these hands, because they'll plug into it. Then what you want to do at the end of this lightning effect where the hole is, you want to make sure that the slanted piece that's dripping down the most is fully covering the bottom of that palm. So as you can see it plugging in, you just want to make sure you're covering the base of that peg. And take a look at how these look on her. Whew, this shit looks tough. Lastly, you get these hands with lightning bolts attached to them, and I really like this just because they're not strictly painted on. As you can see closely right here, the actual hand is sculpted, and the lightning effect is just like an overlay that's on top of the hand sculpt, and I absolutely love this. It's not like the Marvel Legends one where it's just one sculpt and, you know, the flesh tone is painted over it, and this just gives it more of an authentic aesthetic. Oh man, just like the other one, this looks tough, if not tougher, because the way the lightning effects are just splayed out like that, it gives it kind of this nice radius. It's got a good shape to it. The only downside, it's a little on the heavy side, so she might topple over. Definitely, I recommend you putting her in flight poses with this. Not that she wouldn't have any problem standing up. It all depends what kind of pose you're trying to get and how you're angling in, balancing in, all that. But that doesn't pose a problem for me at all. I'm pretty much a pro poser. It's more of the weight on the wrist peg, as I mentioned before. because the wrist peg is kind of weak, but then again, you got this cuff that's like pushing the hand out sometimes. So right now it's staying put, but there are instances where it pops out on me. But still, man, this looks absolutely incredible, and the angry face expression just sells this. And just posing her, I could see why they didn't go with a bendy wire, because again, you can shift this over to this side, and then just kind of play with that wrist a bit. You know, if you wanted the cape going behind her like that, and you know, you could just play with your angles with the cape because it's nice and soft. I still think bendy wire would have been the way to go, just because you can manage your position on how you want it to be shaped to, you know, sell more of a dynamic pose. Now let's go over articulation for Storm, and she's on a double ball peg at the head neck area. So she looks up about that far, and look at that, man, you get some really good range. Despite the long flowing hair, you get nice room right there. So Mafex wanted to make sure that you get range with her looking up, because she is a flight character, and it's important for any kind of flight character to look up. She also looks down a decent amount right there, left right movement, and she tilts nicely side to side. I like that, and you can rock it around. Her arms move slightly higher than a T-pose, and they move down. You can move them up and around. You got the shoulder pads right here that articulate outwards, inwards, up, down. So, you know, the arm is not hindered whatsoever. I like that. You get butterfly joints that move in about that far in and that far out. So, yeah, some good range right there. Look at that. She's got drop down arm mechanics, so they shift upwards and downwards. And she's got a bicep swivel. And I just love where the bicep swivel is. This entire sculpt of the wrinkled sleeve area is covering a majority of the arm right there. I think that's beautiful. And then you get the double jointed elbows that bend in slightly more than 90 degrees, I'd say. I will say that this is not enough for $80+ price point. This should bend in a lot more. I mean, the X-Men 275 Marvel Legends Storm, look at that right there. That gets range. This doesn't. Tell me how the hell the Marvel Legends single jointed elbow has a little bit more range. Not much, just a little bit more. It bends in more, as you can clearly see, than a double jointed Mafex. How? If you skip the Marvel Legends one to get the Mafex one because it has double jointed elbows, if you believe that you were going to get more range with it, I hate to disappoint you, because it doesn't. It's a double jointed elbow that works as a single joint. However, everything else, you're going to get more articulation with the Mafex one, no doubt. Then you get your wrist swivel, the multi-directional ball jointed wrist, and I just like the way the cape goes underneath the wrist cuff, because the Marvel Legends one had this ugly thick rope over the cuff, on top of the cuff right there, I should say. I mean, you could place it underneath the cuff, as you can see what I just did right there, but still, the fact that it's visible, it just hurts the look and appeal, whereas this one just, it looks like it's attached to the cuff. So it just blends in better that way. You get a double diaphragm joint with the upper torso swivel and the ball jointed waist, so you know, you get some good ab crunch right there. You know, you're not going to get that with a Marvel Legends, and that's so important to me, is the ab crunch, because I want all that range. You know, the diaphragm is the core of the figure's body, so that's what you want to get moving to get those dynamic poses. Look at that back bend right there. It's just beautiful. Then it pivots deeply off to the side like that. Get some good range right there. Swivel at the upper torso and swivel at the waist. Drop down leg mechanics that shift up and down. She can get a full split, so that's lovely. You have her legs that can kick up about that far up, and her legs move about that far back, so she can get a frontward split as well. Thigh swivel moves about inward that much and about that far out, not that much. What they should have done is, since this had a cut right here at the thigh-high boot, they should have just went with a domestic swivel, man. Just leave the thigh swivel right there to get more range. They did it with Huntress. I don't know why they didn't do it here. It wouldn't break up the sculpt to me. Then you get double jointed knees. No heel to the Storm butt, but as you can see, The proportions are spot on. And then her ankles move about that far up, that far down. She does have an ankle swivel, and it does pivot nicely, and you get a toe joint. To kick off comparisons, here is the Mafex Storm next to the Marvel Legends Storm. It probably sounded like I was bashing the Marvel Legends one earlier, but I wasn't. I was being firm but fair. It's still a very good looking figure, and if you are on a budget, then it's the perfect choice. I understand not everyone can afford imports. There are plenty I'd pass on because my wallet can only stretch so far with all the multiple lines I collect to fill in those gaps. Here she is next to the Mafex Gambit, the only X-Men male character I have from Mafex. Here's Mafex Storm lined up with the Marvel Legends Wolverine and Cyclops. I never got the Mafex Wolverine and Cyclops. I didn't like the metallic colors on them at all, but since I see Mafex reissuing certain figures, I'll wait for those reissues without the metallic decals like they did with their comic Spider-Man. And here's the Mafex Storm fitting in with the Marvel Legends X-Men Gold Strike team. Which do you like more to fit in with your X-Men Gold team? Mafex Storm here? Or the Marvel Legends Storm here? I'll go over it again. Mafex Storm or Legends Storm. Honestly, both works for me, and the fact that Mafex can blend in with Legends so perfectly, being the same 6-inch scale, is wondrous for your shelf and photography. Lastly, here is Mafex Storm next to her fellow Mafex X-Ladies, Psylocke and Jean Grey. I have a feeling that Rogue will be next, and I can't wait to see how beautiful that figure will come out. I've been all over these X-Ladies by Mafex. And now to wrap things up, my final rating is an 8.5 out of 10. If you want a top-of-the-line 90s Storm figure, then this is it right here. The Mafex Ladies of X-Men have been solid so far. This Storm is a better figure than Jean Grey, which is why I rated her higher. I still think Psylocke is their best female figure. This Storm is a good offering, a strong offering I should say. Multiple heads, a couple of lightning effects, too many damn hands, and that's not a complaint. That's a necessity for a character who always expresses hand gestures when summoning her powers. So that's enough to give you the fun factor you need for display and play. The paint on this figure is another strong feature. I'm still enamored by the cape. It doesn't feel or look cheap like the Legends one. Granted, that's a $20 figure, so I get that, but Hasbro made better looking soft goods than that. This cape looks and feels so good along with that gold trimming that's very reflective. I still feel like it can get the job done dynamically without bendy wire, even though I would have preferred bendy wire. On the articulation front, I'm only bummed about the double jointed elbows working like a single joint. As I mentioned earlier, if you expected a true double jointed range, you're going to be disappointed, and I'm there with you. I had high expectations for that with this line, especially being imports, but I am let down. Everywhere else though is superb. The double jointed ball pegs at the neck and diaphragm, butterfly joints, drop down mechanics for arms and legs, toe joints. You're not going to get that with a Marvel Legends female figure if you care about the articulation like I do. However, if you don't care about articulation and just care about having the character on the shelf, then the Marvel Legends will fill that need for you. If you have the Legends one but really wanted this Mafex, but mad you can't afford it or whatever, then I'd say don't sweat it. No need to beat yourself up for it. If you have the Legends one, then you're good. The Legends is good for what it is. Despite my vexed gripes, this is still one sexy ass figure. Mafex is still bringing the heat, and their fire can't be put out because they stay hot in the kitchen cooking. The Jim Lee faces are spot on. I kind of wish Mafex did this 90s Storm in a metallic silver deco just because I already have a 90s Storm in white. I have a black one too. I would have liked a silver one to have all her costume colors in this uniform. Maybe a repaint later, but for their first Storm, white was the right color choice. All in all, another home run hit out of the park for Mafex. Now I kick it back to you. What do you think of this Mafex Storm? Did she meet your expectations? Which X-Men female character, hero or villain, should Mafex tackle next? Comment below, let me know, we'll chat about it. That was my review. Please follow me on Instagram if you haven't already at xman87. Hit the notification bell so you always know when my latest videos are up. Share and subscribe if you're new. See you on the next review. Peace, peace.